Hey, what is up, Cinema Masters, and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be doing another lighting breakdown with a commercial that I shot 2 years ago, so it's been a little while. I haven't really talked about it yet. If you guys want to watch the full video, I'll make sure to put a link somewhere on the screen or down below in the description so you can check that out. I would recommend going over and watching the full video so that you can see what it looks like, and then come back over here and watch the breakdown. That probably would work best. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump into it. So this is a commercial that I shot a couple years ago at a luxury hotel in Park City, Utah. We've got, some pretty scenery. We've got a couple, enjoying their time in the hotel, getting a massage, hanging out in the hot tub, drinking wine by the fire, reading books, drinking coffee, skiing, doing all the things that wealthy people do at ski lodges. Anyway, so this is going to be great. I'm going to go through and show you kind of how we lit some of these scenes and some of the setups that we use. In fact, this is actually kind of an interesting one because probably for, I don't know, I'd say maybe 90% of this video, I was actually using the exact same lighting setup. And in fact, if you look at most of my work, I'd say that probably 90% maybe of the work that I do in general, I'm almost always using this same setup. And that's not just me. Like I watch other cinematographers and you'll see this used all the time. So this is a formula that you can use in your filmmaking, in your cinematography. And if you follow this, it's really simple to do. And if you follow it, it will basically just automatically look good. Now, there's obviously finesse in every scene that you shoot, every shot that you get. You're going to be tweaking things. You're going to be trying to get it right. But if you're just starting out and you're trying to learn cinematography and learn how to create images that look cinematic, this is a really good formula to start with. So anyway, we're going to start with this scene right here. We've got a couple watching a movie in the theater room. So we've got our male talent here and our female talent here. They're sitting on the couch, hanging out, watching a movie. And the first thing you'll notice is that we've got, this really nice soft light happening on our talent here. So coming from the reverse side on our male talent and on our female talent. Let me just grab a better frame here. There we go. And so we've got that light really nice and soft coming from the reverse side. We're breaking right on this corner of the face. So over here is light and over here is shadow. This is called reverse key lighting. So putting your key light on the reverse side of the subject. So the front side of their face, which is the side that is closest to the camera, basically the side where you can see this ear, that's the side that you want in shadow. And then the other side of their face is where you want your light coming from. So that just creates a lot more depth, a lot more three-dimensionality in your shots. If the light were coming from this side, we basically just have them blasted or hit broadly with the light. And it's not going to look as flattering because it won't have that same depth and that shape to it. With lighting like this, with reverse key lighting, we're getting this really nice shape to the shadow on their faces, and that's what gives them that really lifelike look that's really flattering and looks good. So the way we're doing this is we've got over here for this nice soft light, we've got a aperture 120D over here with a light dome on it, and then we've got a 8x8 diffusion, an 8x8 silk in front of that. The reason we're doing that is we're trying to make the light source as big as possible. When you make a light source bigger, it becomes softer. So you'll notice that this gradation from light over to shadow is really soft. It's this really nice, soft gradation from light to shadow. If we were to put a light, let's say for example right here, we had an LED point light and it was about this size and we were pointing it at our subject right there, you would end up with a very hard line going straight down the middle of your talent's face. Okay, just like that. There wouldn't be any blur to the line. It would be like basically just a hard line, light and shadow, which is not as flattering, right? We want that soft light. And so the way you get soft light is by making the light source larger in relation to your subject. So even a light source that was, maybe this big, if we had diffusion in front of it, would give us this really nice soft light if it's right here next to the subject. Now, in this scene, we're shooting a little bit wide. And in fact, I think we were actually shooting wider than this when we actually did the thing. It's just the wide shot didn't end up in the final commercial. So we were even wider than this, which means that our light has to be all the way over here, all the way outside of frame, all the way on the other side of the room in order to get this effect. So because we still wanted to get soft light, we have to make sure to make our light source bigger. So that's kind of a rule of thumb. the further you get away from your subject with your lights, if you still want them to be soft, the bigger it has to become, which is why we're taking an LED light, we're putting it into a light dome, which is, 3 feet across, so not that big. And then we're putting that through an 8-foot diffusion, which is going to make essentially the size of our light is 8 feet by 8 feet, which gives us this really nice soft light on our subject. So just remember, the larger the light source in relation to your subject, the softer the light's going to be. For example, the sun up in the sky is probably the largest light source on Earth. It's not technically on Earth, but it is the largest light source, you know what I mean? And yet it produces very hard light because to us, the sun's just a small point in the sky. So the light needs to be large relative to the subject. So now we've got our nice soft source over on this side of our talent. Now we want to make sure that this is nice and in shadow on this side so that we're getting that contrast between light and shadow. Now normally what we would do here is put some duvetine on this side. What duvetine is a very dark black fabric. It's a fabric that is very thick and doesn't allow light to pass through it or even bounce off of it. You don't have to use duvetine. You could use like black moving blankets or any other fabric that's really thick, that's black, would probably do the job. In this case, in this scene, we actually weren't using duvetine because these walls, as you can see, are a dark gray. And so there wasn't any light bouncing back anyway, creating that fill light on the shadow side. So if you're shooting in a room that has white walls, you're going to need duvetine if you want to create this level of shadow, because that light's just going to bounce off the walls and then come in here and fill in these shadows. So you'll put duvetine up here, which stops the light from from bouncing off of them, and then it just stops right there. It doesn't bounce back in and fill in the shadows. In this case, we didn't need it, but that's what we would do normally. And then the last thing that we're doing here is that we've added, as you can see, a little lamp here. Now, lamps are probably one of the best and easiest ways to add interest to the background of a shot. If you're looking for a way to spice up your image, to make the lighting just look more interesting, to motivate your light a little bit more, just add a lamp in the background. And a couple of tips on lamps. When you're putting a light bulb in your lamps, there's a few different types of light bulbs you can use. There's incandescent bulbs, which are your typical 60-watt bulbs that they used to have in every house. Now everything's kind of transitioned to LEDs. And so you want to be careful of that because LEDs, especially cheap ones, tend to have a green or magenta spike in them, and they don't have very good color accuracy. And so you'll end up with a lamp producing a light that's kind of green and is going to have this kind of green cast to your whole images. So you want to avoid using LED lights unless they're a specific LED light made for filmmaking. Now, incandescent light bulbs will work. And so incandescent bulbs are the ones that have, like the little filaments in them that glow, that get hot on the inside, like we used to use in all of our fixtures. Those will actually produce a perfectly color accurate light and a really nice color temperature. And the cool thing with those lights is that when you put them in a lamp and you dim it down, so you put a dimmer on it, you dim it down, they actually get warmer. So you can adjust the color temperature based on how much you're dimming down the light. So my recommendation with lamps is to put an incandescent bulb in there or a specific filmmaking made LED light, like an Aperture B7C, which allows you to change the color of it and everything. Those are the ones that I use now. So much easier. It's so much better. But if you don't have those or you don't want to go out and buy those lights, just using a regular incandescent light bulb that you can get from the hardware store, put it in your lamp, dim it down so that it's nice and dim. You're not getting, too much light blowing out in here. You're not getting a blown out effect on your wall. You're just getting this nice kind of dim, like barely lit lamp effect that looks really, really nice and will make your images pop and look amazing. So that lamp is obviously giving us a little bit of light. You can see a little bit of the reflection on our talent here. And then it's creating this nice little shape on the background. Otherwise, our background would be pretty boring in this shot because it's just a gray wall. So that's giving us a little bit of shape. The other thing that's doing is it's lighting up this side of our talent just a little bit, this side of the wall behind our talent, which is causing us to have this really nice silhouette, which is helping the talent to stand out from the background. It's giving us that separation from the background. That is especially important in this scene because we're actually very close to the wall. I typically like to move my talent away from the wall so that you get more depth in the background. But in this scene, we absolutely could not because this couch was like 100 pounds, 200 pounds, I don't even know. It was really, really heavy, and we had to be really careful in the space, and so we just didn't want to move it. And so we had to leave them right there next to the wall. And so something you can do is by adding a lamp in the background, you can kind of create that separation. So we're lighting up this wall behind them, which is creating that silhouette. People will say that you have to have a backlight or a hair light on your subject. You absolutely do not always have to have that. You can create separation by using your lighting effectively and by lighting your background effectively. So we're getting this really nice silhouette that just looks amazing. It's separating them from the background, and you can see, the shape of their heads very easily. So that's basically the lighting formula, and that's pretty much all there is to it. What we're talking about is a really big soft source over here, reverse keying our subject to get that light on that side of their face. For the shadow, then we're using Duvetine to cut out that shadow, and then we're just throwing a lamp in the background to kind of light up the background. So now let's go ahead and look at some of the other scenes in this commercial, and I'll show you how we did that as well, because most of this commercial we ended up doing pretty much the exact same way. All right, so if we move this way, we can go to, okay, so here's another scene where they're dining. Basically the same thing is happening here. We've got our soft source is actually coming from above in this situation. We're trying to motivate top light that would come from a restaurant like this. So soft source from above, which is giving us a really nice light on their faces. And then we're still getting that light breaking on the exact same spot. Okay, this is important, right? And so it's kind of like a reversed key top light because it is slightly behind them, and they've got nice shadow underneath their chins. Now, so we've got the soft light at top, we've got the dark shadow underneath their chins, and then of course some practicals. We've got lamps and some other lights in the background there doing the same thing. Let's see what else we have. This one's all natural light, so we're just lighting them using the firelight, so there's nothing else going on here. And there either. Okay, let's go back the other way. All right, so this one, same thing. You'll notice what's going on here. So we've got them, playing this, what's this called? Shuffleboard or whatever it is. Anyway, so making faces here. We've got window light coming in here. I can't remember if we actually had another light up here helping wrap that window light. I think it's just window light, if I'm not mistaken. So we've got window light hitting this side of their face. You can see the same thing. We've got this little triangle happening on her face right there. So the light is breaking again right on that corner. Same thing with him. Even though it's not a really big contrast ratio, it is still breaking on the same place, and we've got that gradation from light to shadow. We don't have Duvetine over here. Like I said, this was 2 years ago, and so I'm not sure. I don't think I put Duvetine up. If I were shooting this now, I probably would do that just to give us a little bit more shadow on this side and get a little bit less light bouncing back onto their side. So we've got window light coming in here, shadow on this side, and then again we've got, look at that, a lamp in the background dimmed down for effect. Let's keep going. This is from the same scene, and we've got basically the exact same thing going on here. We've got our window light coming in and giving us this soft light. We've got shadow on this side, lamp in the background. In this one, though, we actually did have, I remember, the aperture 120D with the light dome, again, right up here, right above our female talent, pointing down at our male talent. And what that's doing is basically just wrapping the window light around his face. So you can see these reflections on his face and on his nose there. That's the light that's coming from the window. So if we didn't have the key light wrapping that light, basically all of this would be in shadow, and then we just have these little highlights here. With that key light, what we're doing is we're wrapping the window light. We're allowing that window light to come around his face a little bit more so that our light is breaking again on that corner of his face. Okay, moving on. This is all natural light, just shooting at the right time of day. We've got skiing, obviously natural light, shooting in the middle of the day. Even scenes like this, we've got the exact same thing going on. We're not doing a lot of lighting here. We're obviously not setting up our own lights. This is all natural light. Let's change our color here. This is all natural light hitting him and getting this nice look on his face. But of course, like always, we've got the light breaking on the same spot. So light and shadow. We may have had some Duvetine over on this side. I'm guessing we probably did, looking at this shadow right here. It's looking pretty dark. So some Duvetine over here to help get that shadow. And there you go. That's all it takes. All right, next up, we've got this scene, basically the same thing going on. We've got light, shadow, and then a lamp in the background. This scene's kind of interesting. It's similar thing, again, where we've got light coming from basically this direction. So it's kind of toppy, coming from the top. We wanted it to feel like, evening light when you're in a room and the lights are coming from above. And so we've got light coming down on him. You can tell there's light on the top of his face here, and then there's kind of breaking right there into shadow, which is really nice. And then again, once again, lamp in the background. You'll see lots of lamps in this commercial. All right, and I think there's one more. Oh, this is really interesting. So similar to the other natural light one that we looked at, we've got natural light on her face, really soft here. Again, breaking at the same point, and then we had duvetine over here, just creating shadow on this side. Okay, this one's a little bit different because we've got actually hard light coming in here. We have soft light coming in from the windows, so you're seeing that on her face there and on her face over here. But then we also have another light up here that is giving us hard light to motivate sunlight coming in on them as they're getting their massages done. But you'll notice once again, you're probably noticing a trend here. We have another lamp. And the last scene of the commercial, again, the exact same thing. We've got our aperture 120D light up here with the light dome on it to give us some nice soft light there, right there. So most of this light hitting her on the back is from the window, obviously, but then we have this nice soft light in the front, which we're using that aperture to wrap the light around her face, creating this nice little triangle on her cheek over here, which is causing our light to break over there. There is actually a lamp in this scene as well. It's over here on this side. You just can't see it in this shot. There was a wider shot where you could see it, but in this one, you can't see it. But essentially, we have the same thing going on. All right, so there you go. There's a quick breakdown of this commercial and how we lit it, and how we lit pretty much every scene in the commercial exactly the same way, using the same formula. You guys can take this formula and use it in your work, and it will do wonders for your lighting and just make things look super, super good. If you are learning cinematography or you're learning filmmaking and you want to learn how to make work like this that looks cinematic and looks truly cinematic, not what other people say is cinematic, but like really like high-end commercials, like movies, I highly recommend checking out my Lighting Secrets workshop. It's on sale right now. It's super affordable. There's a link to it down in the description below. Inside the training, I teach you my entire theory for how I approach lighting a scene, because when it comes to lighting as a filmmaker, it's not just knowing about what brands to use or what lights to use and where to place them. It's knowing how to think like a cinematographer, because ultimately it's knowing the theory and the principles that's going to make your work look cinematic, and not just knowing what gear to use. So go ahead and check that out. The link is down in the description below. Hope you guys enjoy it, and I will see you on the next video.